Hey guys, it's Will here, and the Orkz Iz Bakk. So yeah, bringing out my Evil Sons for, I believe, the first time this year. Made some big changes to the army and want to see how it goes. Still some changes I want to make, but yeah, this is what I got now. So tonight I'm up against Sam. He's back on the channel and he's bringing his Genestealer cult. So we're going to do 2,000 points on a random Eternal War mission yet to be determined. So the Orcs tonight, we've got 2,000 points, and it's a battalion, a spearhead and an outrider. So starting off leading my battalion, I've got my new warboss on a bike. So he's got power claw and attack squig, and his warlord trait is brutal but cunning, so he gets to reroll hits and gets +1 damage on the charge. And his relic is the killer claw. So yeah, serious combat beat stick there. That's essentially why he's in the list. Backing him up, got a weird boy who's going to have the jump. Then for my troops, got 10-man unit of Grots. First time I've run Grots tonight. Would like more, but that's all I've got painted so far. And 30 boys times 2, so 60 boys. Was going for all slugger choppers, but I didn't have quite enough, so I've had to stick some shooters in the back of this mob until I get some more slugger choppers painted up. Both mobs are running a knob with a power claw, there and there, and then a unit of 10 war bikes, again knob with a power claw. Then over here we've got my I think I said spearhead. I don't mean spearhead, I mean vanguard, so it's the elite one. So we've got a another weird boy running 2 of them, and he's going to have, what's the one that gives you an extra attack? Warpath. So yeah, he's that. Then I've got a knob with a war banner, and then knobs, 7 knobs, 3 with power claws, 3 with slugger chopper, 1 with a big chopper. Again, not the ideal loadout. I've got some more of these I want to paint up to give me a better loadout, but yeah, we've got a good mix in there. They'll be riding in my Bone Breaker, so this is Battle Wagon, but the Bone Breaker variant with the hard case, Death Roller and a couple of big shooters. Then got my Tank Busters, 10 of them in a truck, which is actually a looted Chimera. And then for my my Vanguard detachment, got my new big mech on a bike with a KFF, because that's very fitting for Evil Sons. And then 3 of the new buggies, so we've got 1 shock jump dragster and 2 custom booster blasters. So that's 2,000 points, 10 command points. Strangely, I think I may actually be outnumbered by the Gene Cult here, but yeah, should be interesting to see how these guys go tonight. Really looking forward to getting them out on the table and seeing what the boys can do. Okay, and here's Sam's 2,000 points of Gene Cult with allied Brood Brothers, and he's going to talk you through what he's got.
Right, so 2,000 points. So first thing I do is I spend 1 command point to give myself some extra warlord traits. So my first battalion is a Patriarch with, he's my main warlord. His warlord trait is Biomorph Adaptation, which just gives him +1 strength and attack, which is really nice. That's 7 strength, 7 attacks. Then his powers are Mass Hypnosis and Might from Beyond. And then I've got a Magus in this detachment, and his warlord trait, seeing as he gains 1, is the Inscrutable Cunning, which basically gets me a free roll reroll, which is a save, wound, or 1 other hit roll per game, and gets me D3 extra command points. So I could get 1, which is the one I spent back, or I could get 3, which would get me nice too. So I've then got 18 pure strain Genestealers, just because I actually like Genestealers, and you can't have Genestealer cult without them, I guess. Troops wise, I've got 2 units of 20 acolytes. They're just bog standard, no special weapons apart from the leaders. 1 has a bone sword, 1 has a bone sword lash whip. Just to make sure I can see them basically, and that's what I've got modelled. At the back I've got 20 neophytes, 1 mining laser and 2 grenade launchers in there, just because of points. I would have liked the extra mining laser, but I ran out. So I then got 2 units of 9 aberrants, just because that's how many models I've got. The hypermorphs in there have an improvised weapon, and then there's 4 hammers and 4 picks in each unit, which is makes them very nice. Second battalion detachment, It's more of a Brood Brother-ish type attachment. It's just basically filler and extra characters. So I've got a Primus in there who has a world trait called Alien Cunning, which I believe just increases his aura range. I then have the Icon Ward, who has the relic, the Icon of the Cult Ascendant, which gives everyone +1 strength within 6 inches of him. And then just 3 infantry Brood Brother squads. They have a Cult Voxcaster and a Grenade Launcher, and obviously the Sergeant has Chainsword. Moving on to my Spearhead, it's kind of obligatory you take 9 mortars, because why wouldn't you for 99 points? It's 96 shots.
Especially against Orkz.
Yeah, it's kind of an auto-include, and so Company Commander to lead that, it gives 2 orders, so it's, at least 2 of them can get reroll 1s, because I don't get the Cadian benefit or anything like that, but... And then just a unit of 5 Bullgrins, all with the slab shields, because I don't have a Psyker to make the... not slab shields, the brute shield. The one that has the Invon, I don't have a Psyker to make the best use of it, so I went with the ones that just buff the armor to give them the 2-up save. And for 200 points, like, they're just insanely good Ogrins. So yeah, that's 2,000 points.
Alrighty then, so tonight's mission is supplies from above. So we've got 4 objectives, 1 down here in my backfield, 1 over here, 1 behind the Fortress of Redemption, and 1 deep in the Genestealer half. Sam was able to choose deployment zone, hence he's got the ones on his more objectives on his side of the board, and as you can see it's quarters deployment. So we went first, put my Orkz back here, push my boys up as far forward as I can get them, supported by my knobs and faster elements coming round onto this flank here. I have nothing in reserve. My big mech's in there. Got my 2 weird boys and the banner and the knobs in that transport, and in that one is my tank busters. And my warboss is down here. This big piece of terrain in the middle is going to get on my nerves, I know, but hey, it's going to cause problems for both of us with a bit of luck. He's put his mortars right at the back there, and his Bullgrins right in the front. Then he's placed all his blip markers down. In reserve, he's got the Primus and 2 units of Acolytes, and he's spent a CP to place 4 extra markers to try and confuse things here. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Now, at the moment, I get to choose whether I want to go first or second. Oh, and he only got 1 command point for his extra D3, but that's fine because that still loses him nothing. And I am actually going to choose to go second here because I cannot see where he is, and having played against this army once before, I don't want to be advancing blind. I'd rather I need the objectives, rather I need to see what I'm charging into, and hopefully have some of the Genestealers get a little bit closer. So anyway, here we go with Genestealer Cult turn 1. Okay then, so the Genestealer Cult led off with a full frontal charge from the Genestealers and some really tricksy shenanigans from the Aberrants. Now, anyone out there who's more familiar with Gene Cult than me, please feel free to correct us if we're wrong on this. But the way the rules seem to be interpreted is because these Aberrants were technically deployed at the start, in that their objective marker went down, they are able to deep strike turn 1. Now, it's to do with rule shenanigans. It doesn't seem quite right to me, but you know what? I'll let him have it because, you know, that means the boys get into a fight sooner, and that's kind of what happened. So these guys popped up 9 inches away from my boys here, and then used another command point or 2, or possibly even 3, to move another little bit closer. So they were right up in my grill. And then, yeah, everything else just spread out, really. These guys popped up here onto that objective. These neophytes pushed onto that one, and he's kind of spread out to make his deployment zone a bit more clustered, so I can't deep strike into there. Shooting consisted purely... Oh, Psychic Phase, he achieved nothing. He cast 1 power and failed it. So, yeah, the mortars attacked these boys in the middle here, killed a total of 5 of them, which is fine, you know. We have the numbers to absorb that. Big Mech with his KFF did a little bit there. And then, yeah, the assault phase. These Genestealers failed the charge because of the difficult, or the extra inches they had to move up and down the walls. and actually lost, no, they didn't lose anyone to Overwatch. Then did a couple of Overwatch wounds down here, which killed off one of the aberrants, who then did kill 11 of my boys, but then the boys hit back and killed another couple of aberrants. And so yeah, it's a bit of a stalemate there, nothing happening just yet, but you know, I think the boys have the numbers to grind that out, although we shall see, Anyway, yeah, that's about it, no objectives to be scored, so here we go with Orc turn 1. Okay, so with the Genestealer cult already having units in my deployment zone, needed to counter them first, so I brought my warboss around to here to help out with this fight, and both my weird boys got out. This is the one with Warpath, which he cast on this unit, and this guy put the jump onto the big unit that was there, sent them over here with the intention to charge the aberrants, also push the battle wagon up towards the aberrants. The shock jump dragster rolled a 4, so teleported all the way over here to threaten the Bullgrins and to give those guardsmen some trouble. And all my vehicles on this side tried to push around, get into range to do some shooting because they weren't going to get into a fight this turn. Shooting wise, the bikes that were in range did pretty well, cutting down a large number from the guardsman squad that were there, but then it did take the fire of that scrapjet to finish them off, which was a little bit disappointing that I had to resort to that. But then the second scrapjet was able to finish off one of the mortar teams, so that's nice. One less mortar team firing at me this turn. Over here, just did some incidental damage to the aberrants, and the dragster did manage to get a couple of hits on the Bullgrins, but with their going to ground and their 2+ save, naturally it was able to deflect it even from the custom shot cannon or custom shot rifle. So yeah, they're going to be tough to deal with, although I have just the man for the job. Assault wise, the Bonebreaker got into combat with these guys and killed several of them, and took a couple of wounds in return, and one of them then fled. Charged the dragster into that guardsman squad, really with a view to getting it closer, sort of further up the board, and just keeping it safe. It's not going to do a lot with its shooting because he's not really got any tanks for it to hunt, but it can tie them down, stop them from doing too much more. But these guys failed the charge. They were 9 inches out, they're evil sons, and they failed the charge. Then they failed the reroll. Very disappointing, which is why those guys aren't dead. But over here, the squad that was warpathed, backed up by the warboss, cut through the last of the aberrants, actually spot on. If it had been any less, there'd still be one there, although he may have fled. But yeah, so that's one of the aberrant units dealt with. So yeah, not in an amazing position. I was still like those acolytes in reserve and this big blob of Genestealers to deal with. The Bullgrins, I think, are there more to kind of tank shots than actually do damage, although I wouldn't like to get into combat on their terms, that's for sure. And I'm sure the Genestealer cult have got some dirty tricks and cunning plans up their sleeve as we go into Gene Cult turn 1, 2 even. Just before we go into turn 2, we've done the objectives, moving them. So I was able to move this one back, but not quite far enough to stop those Genestealers storing it, so that's a point for him. Another point over there, and one over there again, because his model was on top of it. When it moved, it's still within 3 inches of him. And down here, because my grots weren't on top of it, so I need to learn for that for next turn, it has moved away from my grots, so they're not scoring it. So he gets 3 points for objectives, but I did get first strike, so it is 3-1 to the Genestealers. Alrighty then, so Genestealer turn 2, and this could have been a game-changing turn. So started off with the aberrants backing out of combat and the Bullgrins running down here. Now they did go like as fast as they could, advancing is the word I'm looking for, so they couldn't charge, but they are blocking these guys off. The big Genestealer unit, which I thought was going to go up and over and into the boys, actually came round here to the battle wagon, pulled that squad out of combat, and then did get back into the fight to allow them to still shoot, which is fine by me because that means my dragster's free to move and shoot next turn, so that actually kind of worked in my favour. And over here these guys moved up, so yeah, he's still in a very good scoring position for objectives. But then Sam made what to his own admission is probably a game losing mistake. He moved on to the shooting phase and was already well into it before he remembered he hadn't brought his aberrants on. Oh, sorry, psychic phase. He hadn't brought either of his Acolyte units on. Now, sometimes against some opponents, I'd say, yeah, go on, bring them on. But Sam has sort of not allowed me to move stuff. Well, it's basically cruel to be kind, make ourselves better players, you know, like no going back on stuff that's that big. So yeah, his aberrants aren't, his acolytes aren't on, and that's yeah, that could be game changing. Psychic phase, he did manage to get Might for Beyond off on these guys, but he failed to mind control my dragster. My argument being the guy's a speed freak, there's no mind to control in there anymore. It only thinks about going fast. So yeah, rest of the shooting, he the mortars fired at the boys down here and killed a few of them, but a big enough unit to absorb the casualties and not have to worry about fleeing. And then fired a lot of lasgun fire into the dragster, did 2 wounds in total, and he also killed a bike with the firepower from this squad. So not too devastating. Assault phase went pretty well with what he had. Genestealers into the Bonebreaker and blew it up, but then the subsequent explosion killed 6 Genestealers, as well as wounding an aberrant and doing some damage to the Bullgrins as well. So yeah, you know, not the end of the world. Only lost 1 knob and took a wound on my mech as well. So yeah, not too bad, but he is still holding a lot of objectives. Alrighty, so pretty solid turn 2 for the Orks there. So yeah, pushed these guys up towards the Bullgrins and brought my 2 characters around here. Knobs pushed up against the Genestealers, and my fast elements continued swinging around this side. I let him have I told him to put guardsmen back there because I realised my dragster shouldn't have been able to charge last turn because I teleported, which means I ran, which means I can't charge. But hey, learnt that. That's yeah, sorry, my bad. Didn't do really much in the long run. Its charge killed 1 guardsman, which I put back. In my psychic phase, put Warpath on the knobs and the jump on these boys who were previously down here. So they went up to this side. And then onto the shooting. As you can see, killed a load more guardsmen over there. Took way more shots than it should have done, though. They were in the cover there, and they did go to ground. So they take cover, whatever it is. So they had a 3+ save, which meant it took the firing from my tank busters, 1 of the scrapjets, and all the bikes to finish them off. But the other scrapjet fired at this big mob that were here, and then the bikes and the scrapjet charged in and messed them up, but they're fearless because of these guys, I believe, the Patriarch, and they're sitting on the objective, so that's a nuisance. He's going to score that. But you know, we're driving him back. Down here, went with the knobs first against the Genestealers, and thanks to the banner and Warpath was able to cut through all the Genestealers. But then he interrupted with his Bullgrins and just beat down on my warboss. So yeah, I have no warboss now, which was a little bit disappointing. But the boys, although it took them 3 CP in a second round of attacks to do it, did eventually cut down the Bullgrins in revenge. So that's probably his hardest combat unit off the board. And Sam is very disappointed about the fact the hardest combat unit in his Genestealer army is Bullgrins, which aren't even meant to be a Genestealer unit. And then over here, these boys failed the charge. It's 2 turns. I've got to jump off and failed the 9-inch charge with Evil Sun's boys, even with the reroll. So a little bit less than impressed with that. But I am pretty much guaranteed a point this turn at least, because my grots are sitting on that objective, so that won't move away from me. But I think he'll still have the points lead, because obviously he's got Warlord and camping a couple of objectives. The Dragster failed with any shooting, did get off a charge and put 1 wound on the mortar team, which is going to mean they're going to have to move out, but they'll just get back in the fight, so it's no biggie. Yeah, it's still going to be problematic when those aberrants come in this turn. Sorry, not aberrants, acolytes come in this turn. And the aberrants counterattack was able to kill another couple of the knobs. But yeah, not too bad at the moment. We've certainly got the field right now. The objectives moving around favoured Sam very much again, so he's been able to pull this one away from my boys, so he scores that for 1. Over there, it did move closer to my bikes, but with his guys being troops, he scored that, so that's 2. That one's out in the open, no one's scoring that. But my Grotz have grabbed that one, so that's 2-1 points to him this turn. Plus Warlord is 3, so he's on 6 to my 2. So not a good turn for the Orcs points-wise, but yeah, we've got time to catch up on that. Big news from Colt turn 3 was the arrival of both the Acolyte units, so one down here to threaten the boys, and one over there to go for the bikes. But as with my 2 previous jump attempts, with needing the 8-inch charge, or the 9-inch charge with the +1, Sam failed both his charges, so some really bad luck on charges across the board tonight. But that was his one last chance really to claim the win, I think, as if he could get at least this charge and possibly that one. But he did do something, pulled his mortars back out of combat so they could shoot, thanks to get back in the fight, and he was also able to get his Patriarch right up to my bikes. So Psychic Phase, I think he failed the 1 power he tried to cast. Or did you get Might from Beyond off? Oh, he got a smite and did a wound to my Dragster, yeah. Shooting, he killed 5 boys from here with the mortar fire from over there, and that was about it. He decided not to shoot the boys because he knew I'd just take guys off the back and cut down the charge range. Combat was interesting, so the Primus got in and killed 4 of the bikes and lost another one to leadership, and we killed a few of the guardsmen, neophytes there that didn't, do a lot. His company commander actually did a wound in combat to my shock jump dragster, but the dragster did 2 wounds back to him. But yeah, that kind of ties my dragster up now, which is a little bit annoying, but hey, keeping him busy, that's fine, it's no problem. And that was about, and I combat interrupted with the knobs and cut down the last of the aberrants because I didn't want them having a swing at my knobs. So yeah, it's all kind of going rather well. That did get me the point there, so because points are actually scored at the end of the turn, so I got that one and that one. Start of start of player turn, sorry, so I haven't scored that one yet, but I'm getting near it. So I scored that one, so that is, yeah. So we're starting to threaten the other ones with our deadly units. I still haven't even really seen the best of my tank busters yet. I've got a plan for them though, don't you worry. But yeah, that's it. Genestealer Colt still in the lead, but perhaps not in the best of places. So we go into Orc turn 3. Orc turn 3, so the first thing was these boys, who were initially the proposed target of the aberrants, turned round to face the aberrants. Knobs pushed up the centre, and the bikes pulled out of combat because there was very little they could do, while these boys continued to advance down the flank here. The Grotz surrounded that objective because it's not going to be running anywhere, and I don't need to protect my backfield because A, they are literally the only thing around, and B, they are not really got a deep strike threat on now. Shooting phase was not too successful. I did kill a few guys down here. Did bring my tank busters, so they were the closest, or the closest target was the Broodlord Patriarch. But he transferred all the damage they did onto that unit, and the scrapjet killed a couple as well. I think that was about it for shooting because my dragster was tied up. Yeah, oh, and in the psychic phase, I did manage to get Warpath from this weird boy onto this boy's mob, and this weird boy had jumped himself to hang out with the knobs because he was kind of getting left behind because he teleported everyone away from him. Also part of this big mech on the objective. Assaults, so down here my boys cut down all bar 2 of the acolytes, and those 2 fled. These guys killed all bar 1 of the guardsmen. The dragster did 1 wound to the company commander, who is still bravely fighting against basically like a modified racing car in combat. It's just like the weirdest thing ever with Orcs. And over here things didn't go quite so well. So his Patriarch was able to heroically intervene, tied up that one, wrecked the other one, wrecked one of the scrapjets, and he removed casualties from this squad in such a way that the other scrapjet couldn't fight. So well played there, Sam, well played. That Patriarch and that squad of aberrants are really all he's playing with now. He's got the mortars, but they haven't been as effective as you would have liked, I think. and they'll be gone next turn when the boys start to run rampage. So yeah, not too shabby. We do need to roll to move objectives, but the way it's looking, there's no way I can't score that one or that one, and there's no way he can't score that one. That one, there's a way it could go my way, but it's unlikely. So yeah, let's roll for those before we go on to the 4th Gene Cult turn. Speed things along a bit, we only rolled for the one that was really of consequence, because this one here, that one there, and that one there are all pretty much secure, so this one's the one that mattered, and we both rolled a 4, so it stays where it is. So yeah, Genestealer Cult, turn 4. Alright, so a tough turn for the Orks there. The Gene Cult really actually sort of hit back hard this turn. Movement was pretty minimal. He moved the acolytes up to the bikes, stepped this squad out of combat with the boys. There wasn't really a lot else to move, but what he did do worked nicely. So Psychic Phase, he managed to get Might from Beyond off on the acolytes, which came in very handy next turn. And the mortars in the shooting phase rained down shots on the boys. That is actually effectively wiping that squad out. Because I haven't got enough CP to make it worth saving them, because then I can't resurrect them, and he's done too much damage. He killed 11 of the 12 boys, so the knob runs off, and with only 4 CP left, I should have saved one more. Yeah, that's them gone, so that's nasty. Other than that, he killed the bikes in combat, and also the tank busters truck, and 3 tank busters died and another 2 ran away. So yeah, things are not going so well over here, but points wise I'm starting to close the gap now. It's 8-5, scored 2 this turn, but yeah, we're going to probably need a good turn 4 and 5, and maybe even go on to 6 to pull out the lead if I can deal with all this over here. Problematically, 15 boys here. 15. I can't pop Endless Green Tide until I'm below half strength. If I'd lost one more boy here, or if I'd sneakily snuck one out without Sam looking, I'd have been able to resurrect them, but no, that's going to be an issue, but we have ways around this. I've still got my knobs up, so yeah, let's see what we can do. The first part of Orc turn 5 went perfectly to plan, as I jumped those boys over 9 inches from the acolytes. I then, because that acolyte squad was quite large, I wanted to cut them down a little bit. So there was some incidental shooting from the big mech and the scrapjet. The scrapjet split its fire, killed a few of the acolytes and 2 of the mortars, so that was pretty handy. But Sam very cleverly, and I should have really expected this, removed the closest models, so suddenly the boys couldn't get their charge off. The knobs did, however, get close, and they were under the effect of Warpath, so they've made a big dent in both the neophytes and the acolytes, with a little bit of help from the charging scrapjet. But the Patriarch did cut down my tank busters. So at the start of his turn, he was definitely going to score another 2 points, so that's going to bring him up to 10-5. So I've not got much time to get these points back, but it is still doable. That boys squad could still be a threat, but he's going to be clever. I know he's not going to let me pull any shenanigans there, so this is going to be a tough one. Okay, so the Genestealer counterattack continued and continued hard. As you can see, I'm really running out of stuff. He pushed his mortars up just in range to get the grots. Only killed 2 of them, but because grots have crappy leadership and I rolled a 6, I'm down to just 4 grots, which is going to be a problem with holding that. He very deliberately ignored those boys, because he knew if he killed one, I still have 3 CP to respawn the rest of them, but he's too smart to let that happen. Instead, focusing his shooting and attacks on the knobs and the scrapjet, and killed both of those. So yeah, things are not looking good for the Orks. We're currently holding basically 2 objectives apiece as we go into my 5th turn. But yeah, he's got so many more points. I'm going to have to drag this out to, you know, get the win here. But here we go, we're going to try our best. Well, that went wrong. That went very wrong. So, with this objective down here, I want to leave the jump weird boy on there, and I knew my other weird boy wouldn't get up the board fast enough, so I just pulled him close to my jump weird boy and tried to jump the other guy, but that failed, which was unfortunate. But the big failure was these boys. The obvious target was to run into here to fight these guys off the objective. 15 boys, there's a good chance of doing it. We rolled a 3 for our charge range. It's okay, that's a 4. We're evil sons. We can, you know, we're orcs. We can here we go. Rolled a double 1 on the here we go roll. The big mech did manage to get in and kill that last guardsman off that objective. But I think it's going to be a little bit too little, a little bit too late, because these guys are camping this. So start of his turn, he's going to get at least 1 more point. Well, yeah, depending on what that objective does. And yeah, we're going to need to roll to see what happens, though. Roll to see if the game ends. Yeah.
No, carries on.
No, it carries on. We've got another chance to do this, boys. Okay, and that really is the end of the game. So yeah, he's outplayed me. The acolytes and the patriarch made it into combat with the boys and killed all of them, they were my one last hope, those boys, but not being able to respawn them at the right time to really make the difference, and then fluffing that charge cost me in the end. Also, the mortars rained down fire on the grots, and the last survivor ran off. You know, he's a grot, didn't expect much more from him. So, and he got in combat with a big mech, but didn't really do a lot. So, yeah, he's got me on points, and he's now got me on board control as well. So, GG, good game, mate.
Alright then, so yeah, we may have lost the game, but I had a really good time playing that actually. It was a really fun game. Loved getting the orcs back out and doing sort of all the orky things, and just the, you know, the coolness of the army. So yeah, had a great time, and thanks to Sam, and well done, you beat me in the end there. And not only was it a fun game, but it was really back and forth as well. You know, like the end of turn 2, after getting some of the right charges off and him forgetting to bring on his reserves, I thought, yeah, I've got this in the bag here. But ultimately, you know, a little bit of bad luck and some very good play on his part, and he was able to pull it back and beat me in the end. The game really went down to a lot of failed charges, missed opportunities and mistakes, and although I may have had the majority of them, there were certainly you know, things like that on both sides. Over the course of the game, I counted 6 failed charges that would have been big if they'd come off, for like the Genestealers, his reserves, big mobs of boys that just had jump cast on them, you know, units that had a good chance of getting into combat, failing their charges. And that is one of the risks with particularly with these 2 armies, but assault armies in general, is, you know, charging doesn't always come off. It's not like if you've got a unit that's in range to shoot, you're not going to suddenly roll a dice and find it's out of range. But charging, you know, you can get everything right and, you know, get within a decent range, and it just fail at the last minute. And both of these armies, both being rather hard hitting in combat, but rather weak sort of resilience wise, you know, they could quite easily be cut down by counterfire, and it really comes down to who gets the charge. So that was certainly a bit of a game changer. There's a couple of times where, you know, if one or other had got the charge, it would have really changed the outcome. Yeah, also just sort of showed the reliability that can come from shooting. You know, one of his best units, although they were a little bit lackluster in the early game, they really came through in the late game, was the mortars. Finishing off my grots made a big difference. And for me, my right flank shooting stuff, the Dakka jets and the, not Dakka jets, sorry, scrap jets, and the bikes, really bringing the Dakka to cut down his light infantry. You know, shooting, even for armies that aren't really about shooting, is still quite a good way, you know, a good part of the game, whereas combat, it can be really make or break. It can be devastating when it goes off, it can go horribly wrong and do nothing. A few other bits and pieces I learnt fairly early on. You need to stand on the objective, not near it, because if you stand near it, it may just decide to float off and you don't score it. Also made a bit of a boo-boo in kind of wasting my warboss. Some bad positioning and bad choice in combat order led to you know, my new badass killy character doing next to nothing. Which was a bit disappointing, but you know, he'll be back next time, and he's got revenge in mind. And you know, Sam obviously forgot his reserves as well, which seemed terrible at the time, but in the end it allowed him to bring those units on a little bit later, and may actually have you know, helped him in the end, having those extra numbers later in the game when my army was a little bit weaker. So yeah, and obviously I wasn't able to bring back my boys like I'd planned to, just the way the numbers fell. It didn't quite work, but Sam pointed out after the game he was actually holding 3 CP to do the Genestealer equivalent of the Vex stratagem to stop that if I tried to do Endless Green Tides, so you know, it probably wouldn't have made too much difference in the end. But either way, really fun game. Man of the match has to go to that Genestealer Patriarch though. Just absolutely wrecking stuff and then refusing to die by passing on his wounds to his horde of little minions, and yeah, just smashing through most of my right flank. Really did a top-notch job, and I think he was ultimately the piece that cost me the game. So well done to Sam. Certainly a lot learnt about Orkz there, and you know, it may be a loss, but I'm encouraged by how certain things went down, and it's given me a few ideas to try in the future. So yeah, the boys will be back. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.